solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Arianna Campbell, shareholder and consultant at BoomerConsulting, and with me today is Jennifer Arutunjan. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for being on this episode of the podcast.
Hi, Arianna. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So Jennifer is the manager of learning and development at Freed Maxick. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of learning and development in accounting firms. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Jennifer, why don't you tell us about yourself and your professional career history?
Absolutely. So I started my career off in the restaurant industry with Hard Rock Cafe after I graduated from college. And really it was there that I fell in love with training and development and realizing that I always wanted to be involved in training. My bachelor's degree is in hospitality management. So I originally went to school to, run restaurants because I love restaurants. But in working at Hard Rock, I really discovered my love for training. It happened, there was a moment that there was a click where I created a standard operating procedure and it got published on our company's extranet. And I was over the moon. I was so excited. And people that are listening are probably like, you created an SOP and that was like super exciting to you. Well, it was. And it really just got me to where I knew I wanted to be involved in training. And after Hard Rock Cafe, I lived in Washington, D.C. for a little bit and worked with another restaurant group there. And then from 2014 to 2020, I was with Pagula Sports and Entertainment in Buffalo, New York. And I was leading training for multiple restaurant concepts that group owned. And 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit in 2020, I lost my job. I was laid off and decided to pivot to professional services. And I've been with Freed Maxick for about 2 years now, and I'm loving professional services and, supporting L&D at our firm.
That is a really cool story. So think about all just the different perspectives and insights that you have on training, because training is such a broad area, and to be able to have different styles from different industries and things like that really gives you a wide breadth of knowledge. So tell us a little bit about your current role.
Yeah, so in my current role at Freed Maxick, I'm manager of learning and development, and I provide support to over 300 team members as they progress throughout their careers with us. I manage our firm's training calendar, which includes internally produced CPE events, leadership workshops, and trainings for all of our career levels and departments. I also lead our EARN program, and that focuses on empowering employees to achieve success, be responsive to change, and network to connect. I'm part of an HR team of 7 people, and we all work together to support our professional staff, in every aspect from onboarding, learning and development, coaching, benefits, wellness, engagement, etc.
Wow, you've listed a lot of different areas that you cover, and then I know working with your team, you're really working to support the learning and development within the firm. I'm sure not only technically, but also making sure they have core success skills that are helping with that professional and personal growth and development, because obviously professional development also impacts the personal side of people as well, and really making sure that you're blending those together. So when you think of all of those different pieces and just learning and development overall, why is it important in accounting firms?
Our employees, they tell us this is what they want, right? You just said it. It's that personal growth and professional. We need it, as businesses, right, to grow or die, but we also need it, on the personal side. We are all people. The professionals at our firms are people. They want to be, nourished and to grow and to develop. So I think it's critical because of all of that. If we don't do it, we won't keep providing, great services to our clients. We won't be able to grow as a firm, but people do want it, personally as well. You want to feel fulfilled. You want to be able to do your job and be great at it. I read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People early in my career and kind of fell in love with these habits. Specifically, habit 7 is sharpen your saw.
Yeah.
So I'm always talking about how, you have to keep your saw, which is, your skills sharp. If you're not working on developing those, not only upskilling, your current skills, but, expanding into all of the new skills that, are up and coming, like digital skills, automation. If you're not doing that, then you can't cut down the tree, right? You can't provide services. You won't be able to do what you need to do. So sharpening the saw is something I like to focus on. For me as an L&D professional, and then passing that on to our team of professionals so they can be the best at what they do.
Absolutely. So there's the opportunity to make that personal impact through the learning and development that you're doing, which also has a ripple effect into the firm, because obviously, the success and the future of the firm depends on the training and the learning that the people get. So that's a really big responsibility and opportunity to craft the programs and the trainings that make that happen. So when you think about the role of an L&D leader, what do you think are the essentials of being an effective L&D leader?
I think listening is huge. Listening to your leadership team that you're working with, listening to the people that you support, listening to the team that you work with, being able to then advocate for what people want. That's number one. Secondly, project management, organization, very important, especially if maybe you're, a team of 1 or 2 in L&D, you're getting pulled so many different ways. So definitely being organized, so you can, keep your priorities in check and know what you need to work on and when you need to work on things. And then finally, I would say servant leadership is huge. It's what we're, talking to our teams about. So I think it's a core skill for all leaders, and really just being able to put others first, to support your team, be empathetic, empower your team, helping others to learn and grow. Those are 3 key skills that I think are very important to L&D professionals and most leaders.
Those are really good insights on those 3, and especially your point about servant leadership. And it ties into the first one that you said around listening, because, playing in that servant leadership role, that listening and being an advocate are really important pieces, because we want training and learning programs that people are going to want to consume. And I would even dare to say that they're going to be excited about, right? We don't want them to feel like we're having to go through training, but that they are really getting something, from that training. So I think that those attributes of a good L&D leader are really on point. When you think about the listening piece, obviously you can't make everyone happy. So as you're listening to feedback and, getting those insights, how do you kind of approach being able to incorporate the different feedback that you get to build different programs?
So we've got our strategic plan. That's kind of, the anchor of where we want to make sure that things align back to our strategic plan and the career pathways that we have for the professionals. So as I'm talking to, our leadership, our professionals, it's always, in the back of my mind, where does this link up? Where does this align to, our overall competencies that we're focusing on to ultimately, drive success to the firm, drive value to our clients, and making sure that, everything is linked up. So keeping that in mind.
That's one of the best kind of guiding documents or guiding plans that you can have in order to make sure that things are in alignment. And I'm sure that that helps you to then coach people, as they do come to you with feedback and suggestions to help make sure that they understand the strategy and vision as well. And for you to be able to understand the importance of learning and development and training and making sure that the firm can actually meet their strategic goals. So it's great that you have that connection that you can not only make for yourself and your team, but also for those who you are training.
Yes.
So what advice do you have for firms regarding learning and development as you think about your career, not only in accounting with your current role, but just as being a learning and development professional? What would you say specifically for accounting firms? What kind of advice would you give?
I would say don't be afraid to try something new. Change it up. Ask what people want. Ask your network, what are they doing? What's working? What's not working? I'd like to think, and I do feel like we are all in it together as L&D professionals. So reaching out to your network, finding out what people are doing, getting that feedback when you're thinking about, implementing new programs or deciding what to do with your L&D programs at your firm. Sharpening your saw, like I mentioned, make sure that you're developing as an L&D professional so you can stay on top of the trends and what's going on. And then I would say, one thing at a time. It's that progress over perfection. You're going to want to do a lot. You're going to want to impact all the areas. I'm that way. Sometimes I struggle with, all of the details, and I want to make everybody happy. One thing at a time, try one thing, get feedback, move on. Don't get lost in all those details, because I know L&D folks love, all of the details. A lot of us are very detail oriented. So try it, be bold, network, and don't forget to work on yourself as well.
Yeah, you've mentioned a couple of times, just circling back to sharpening the saw and really making sure that you're focused on essentially continuous improvement, continuing to try things to find out what's going to work. And that's an essential part of the role, but understanding that we never arrive when it comes to learning and development. There is no destination where you're done. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. When you're advocating for L&D within any organization and the importance and value of the L&D function, it's not a one and done. You don't just create, procedures and trainings and then they're memorialized on a shelf somewhere. They're constantly changing, evolving, adding new things. So there's definitely a need for that, and it never ends. We're always learning. And if we're not learning, we're not growing. What fun is it if you're not learning something new?
It's so true. And what I love is your passion for learning and development. It's clear that it's something that you enjoy, not just as a job that you do, but as a change that you're really making, not only for the firm, but also for the individuals who you get to partner with. And I think personally that that's what really makes a difference in an L&D leader, is in having that passion for the work that you're doing, because then you can create the programs and trainings that are really going to get people engaged and excited. So I'm glad that you were able to share that passion with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. That makes my heart smile. I definitely do have a passion for it. That's another piece of advice that I like to give people. If you don't like what you're doing, do something else, right?
That's so true. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Jennifer. It was so great to hear your insights. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. We talked about talent and learning and development today, but we also cover topics related to leadership, process, technology, and growth. But the one thing that all of our podcasts have in common is that they are crucial to your firm's success and with helping you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. So if you like what you heard, please subscribe, and thanks so much for listening. And thank you, Jennifer, for being on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well if you have questions about L&D or about Freed Maxick.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.